Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us for our webinar today. My name is Tong, and I'm a part of the DSN marketing team. Today I'll be co-hosting alongside Tami, and we are excited to walk you through DSN software and show you how you can help your practice cut down on note-taking time. Feel free to submit any questions in the chat as we go, and before we finish, we'll answer some questions that can help everyone get the most out of today's session. Now I'd like to introduce my co-host, Tami. She is our Director of Business Development and has been with the DSN family for many years. She has been working closely with practices and getting to truly understand how our users work and what they need. From helping teams choose the right solutions to guiding them on how to get the most out of their solutions, Tami's experience makes her the perfect person to walk us through the platform today. I'll hand it over to her now.
Thank you, Tong. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. All of you are here because of your interest in cutting down the amount of time you spend in your clinical documentation. So today we're going to focus on why traditional workflows slow you down and what a better workflow actually looks like. And we're introducing DSN Cloud platform, and we will provide an example of how to create a note using DSN's EMR. At the end of our presentation, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So let's move forward now and discuss what are some of the challenges. A huge challenge is the amount of time spent in clinical documentation and letters. And some of the reasons this is so labor intensive are multiple systems. So sometimes there's many logins and a need to often re-enter duplicate information. Think about how many times you might have to juggle having maybe charting in one tool, letters in another, maybe your imaging, prescriptions, areas like treatment planning and billing are in other systems. You probably find yourself often copy and pasting or re-entering some information. Maybe you're printing documents that need to be filled out or scanning those documents that have been filled out back into your system. Sometimes all of these systems result in delays in communicating with referring doctors. For instance, if doctors are dictating their letters, there might still be a need to transcribe the dictation, maybe edit the dictation. Many of the practices that we consult with each week spend a lot of time and sometimes a lot of money for some of these types of services. It matters because of how much time having really good clinical documentation and communication with your referral sources take. When we talk to doctors, more than half of them tell us that they spend quite a bit of time at home finishing their documentation. And this part of their job is what many report as an area that causes burnout in their professional line. So DSN's focus has been to create a better workflow for our doctors and our oral surgery practices. So one of the things that we offer is an all-in-one software that is specific to oral surgery. So you only need one platform that's going to handle your charting, your imaging, referral communications, billing, and built-in workflows for your surgeries. Next month at the AMOS meeting, we'll be unveiling the latest in our AI development, where doctors actually can speak into their clinical note-taking area, and those comments they make are instantly transcribed into structured notes. Another area that results in a better workflow is doctors having access to their CBCT images from any computer, any location. And in our DSN software, we can accomplish that and load images from anywhere in under a minute. Another area that results in a better workflow is our referral letters actually pull from the doctor's chart notes. This provides letters that are both automated and specific to each patient. And then those letters can directly be sent by secure email to referring doctors from DSN platform. So let's look at an example of documenting a clinical note and letter in DSN. So DSN integrates with your vitals monitors. So that information is captured, it drops into the note-taking area. And while your doctor is performing surgery, that information is all being created in real time by the use of having some automated surgery templates that help streamline the process of capturing that information. Next, a letter is auto-generated using a template, pulling from the notes, the clinical notes. So let's now take a look at how the automated templates streamline this process, and we'll also create a letter so that you can see how that pulls and what the resulting letter looks like. So now let's go to the DSN software. And I'm going to share my screen. And you'll be able to see the DSN software. Give me just a moment to get that up. Let me try that again. Here we go, share. Okay, so you should be seeing a screen that has a sample schedule on it. Can I confirm that that is what is being seen?
Yes, it is.
Great, thank you. So today's presentation is focused on the clinical documentation using DSN's EMR. So we're going to do a brief walkthrough without all the usual detail you would see in a full demo. So keep in mind that you will probably want to see a fuller picture, and you will when you schedule a personal demo. But for time's sake, we want to keep this brief today and just focus on the area of note-taking and reducing time spent on that. So today I'm going to use Alicia Almond as my test patient. Oh, let's see here. And when I give focus to Alicia Almond, I can then move to the EMR, which is our clinical area, and open up where we'll capture her notes. Just a moment here. In the EMR, just orient you a little bit. You will see the patient's name across the top, birth date, the referring doctor, and the last visit. Also visible in the clinical area are the allergies, health alerts, and medications for this patient. And these pull forward from the online patient registration forms. So with DSN, those become in real time, you have those in your clinical area. And then you'll also notice moving down that there are several tabs, and the first 5 allow us to capture information. And then there's a review and finalize tab and a past encounters. Before I start any further, let me take just a moment and clear out a previous note that was in here. I apologize for that. Should have had that cleared out. Okay, so here's our patient, and she's come back into the room for a consult and examination. So we're going to move forward with creating a note for her. And in the EMR, you'll notice that we can indicate what type of note it is. So this is an extraction consult. And you'll also notice that on the left-hand side, there are phrases. These phrases can be individually selected and used. Anything that moves over to the right-hand side is beginning to create the doctor's note. So I can create a note using selected phrases, we can voice to text, and we can also freeform type. And any of these areas will result in a note. But more likely, you're going to take advantage of having some templates that are designed for many of the procedures that you do in your practice. So I'm going to select a template for thirds, and we're going to select that and watch that come in. So here's some usual and customary verbiage for maybe a general thirds consult. This is usually an appointment where you're also reviewing the patient's medical history. So as you review their history, you may need to make some adjustments. So possibly you'll want to note that maybe there is something like high blood pressure. So we can do that. Moving to the examination, we can also add a template for thirds and apply that information. And we'll see the usual and customary verbiage come in. We'll see the diagnosis here, and we'll see the plan is for extraction, and the generalized counseling note for thirds extraction drops into the document. So after we've met with the patient for the consult and examination, we have created a note. Here's the note, the history and exam, and it's for Alicia. We see her referring doctor, her chief complaint, so all of her medical history comes into this. Also the medications, allergies, health alerts from her forms also moves in. And then the examination findings. So we see the diagnosis, the counseling note, and the plan. Next, all of these areas that you can see, the diagnosis, everything that's in bold, these are all merge fields. And these merge fields can be part of a letter template so that you can choose a letter template and have it pulled directly from this note. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to move to the attachment area and select a referral template. So I'm going to go to my referred by, and I have a few in here, and I'm going to select one of these and show you how that information pulls from the clinical note. So our templated letter has today's date, the referring doctor for Alicia, letter goes to him, her appointment date was today, her diagnosis is here, and the plan to have her come back and extract the following teeth. Any parts of this letter can be edited in this while it's up here. And we can also sign the letter electronically right from the screen, or we can have in the letter template, doctor can have a signature file embedded into the letter. So different offices prefer to do it different ways. And then if you'd like to send this letter, you can print it or you can send it by secure email right from DSN. So the letter has been prepared and it's being sent. And then that letter is saved and it's going to be in this area of your patient's file. So moving back to the EMR, we have the consult, the examination, the letter's been prepared. Now let's take a look at what it looks like when the patient comes back and the doctor's actually doing the procedure. So we're going to take a look at the op report and what that looks like. In the op report, again, you'll see the clinical information that shows up at the top of the screen, the allergies, health alerts, and the medications. And the pre-op data, this is going to be completed by your assistant. They will indicate what monitors are going to be used, probably notate the ASA status, the monitors, And they'll have confirmed with the patient that they haven't had any food or drink. If there's a pre-med to be taken, they'll have confirmed that, and notice that as I select things, it moves over into the right-hand side. They'll check if the patient's pregnant. And then next, they're going to also make some notes as to what is being done today. So let's look at the procedure for today. It is the extraction of 1/16/1732. Why are we doing it? Well, we could put maybe poor eruption prognosis, and maybe there's orthodontic treatment that dictates this treatment. We can also indicate who the team is today, so we can indicate the doctors and the assistants that are providing the services. And then we can also note the description of the surgery. So under extractions, you'll see that there's some verbiage here. Let's select the one that pertains to wisdom teeth extractions. And if everything is straightforward, this will be the verbiage that probably stays, or it can be edited at a later time. Your assistant probably has confirmed that there's an escort, and they're also going to note what the plan is for discharge. So if there is a surgery with anesthesia, most likely the patient is going to be observed for a length of time. So that information is also in the note. So we can now minimize this area and come to the area where the doctor is now coming into the room and is getting ready to start the anesthesia. You'll see that note come into the record. Start the IV. The IV site can be selected, and we can enter that, and you'll see that information also move into the note. And they're ready to start the procedure. We'll also want to turn on the vitals monitor, and within DSN, we mentioned earlier that your vitals, patient's vitals will auto-populate DSN. So I have a simulator set up, so I'm turning that on, that you can see some of that information drop into this record. Okay, and then we're ready to start the procedure. DSN also has a provision that the doctor and his team can take a timeout. They can indicate that they have reviewed who's here, any allergies, make sure that we're all on the same page for what we're doing. And that timeout also shows up in your note. Then we can go ahead and start the procedure. And the only information then that actually is going to be added during the actual procedure is the information on the anesthesia that's delivered. So let's look at giving this patient some Versed. And I'm just going to start with 5 milligrams. And we can enter that medication. Also note that you can, if something has some waste involved, you can indicate that as well. If the doctor wants to add another 5 milligrams of Versed, we can add that. And you'll notice here in the area following that a running total of how much of each medication is going to be documented here in your note. There's also an area for doctors to note the local anesthesia. That'll take just a moment to open up. There we go. And I'm just going to add something so you can see how this shows up in the note. So I'm going to just put in 4 carps of the lidocaine and enter that. And that's going to show up in this area where it says local anesthesia used. And you'll see that that information comes in having accomplished that calculation of breaking down both the lidocaine and the epinephrine. So it will accurately come into the record. And then the doctor is finishing up the procedure. Let's go ahead and go back up to the buttons here and end the procedure, and we get a timestamp for that. We can go ahead, remove the IV, stop the anesthesia, and note that there's an anesthesia time that's calculated here in the record. So that's really helpful. And we're also going to then after watching the patient for maybe that 10 or 15 minutes, also put in a discharge time. Okay. Another comment on the medications. Because all your medications and anesthesia is going into the record, you can also pull that information out in a report from DSN. So many of you each month provide a report of your DEA drug log, and DSN runs a report that makes that light work out of that task. So that's another benefit in DSN. So we've entered all the information. I'm going to stop the vitals monitor, and we're going to take a look at the note that's been created at the time that the surgery is finished. So again, information about Alicia Almond and diagnosis, procedure, why we're doing the procedure, anesthesia plan, pre-op data, surgical team, the monitors, and then all the operative data. So we have timestamps in there and the patient's vitals, the anesthesia, and a total anesthesia time, discharge information, description of the procedure, the anesthesia that was used, the IV meds, and the discharge data. So a pretty complete note and all easily read. We don't have to decipher any doctor's handwriting. Again, you'll notice that there are bold subheadings here. Anything in bold can be a merge field in a letter template. So again, if doctors want to have a template that would report some of the findings from the procedure, they could have a letter or a report that's designed to pull things right from the patient's op report. So we basically have walked through creating the note and a letter for the consult and then the op report. So this is just kind of a quick walkthrough showing the clinical documentation, and also want to let you know that we have more coming very soon. So Tong, I'll turn it back to you, and we have another slide that we want to show about something that's coming new, and that is DSN is giving a lot of priority focus right now to development in AI. And the first AI feature to be available in our EMR is the voice to notes transcription, which will quickly convert voice to notes in the consult, exam, and op report. And these new AI features will be unveiled, and we'll be showing them at the AMOS meeting that's just now a few weeks away. And the development in this area, it's just begun. So there's other items here that are kind of whet your appetite. We have so much more that's planned in the near future. And today you've had a glimpse of some of the efficiencies of DSN software. We would love to provide each of you with a personalized demo where we can show you more of what DSN offers practices, as well as speak directly to some of your unique challenges in your practice. So Tong, I'll turn this back over to you, and let's look at some of the questions that some of you may have.
Thank you so much, Tami. That was incredibly informative, and it offered great insight into how our practices can reduce note-taking time and run more efficiently. That was great. Now let's take a look at a few questions from our attendees. I have already seen some come through, so let me pick a few and we can get started with a few. My first one here is, Tami, do the notes auto-lock at a certain time if they are not signed?
That's a good question. No, they do not. And I think I neglected to show this in our demo, but if the notes are not signed immediately, they actually go to a document queue until signed. And it's just a second button on your toolbar. You go to EMR documents, and those documents are there. Anything that's not signed will be there waiting for the doctor to take a look at them and then sign them. And I will also mention that up until the time the documents are signed, anything can be edited in the documents.
Perfect. I have a question here. Can the phrases and templates be set up per provider?
Yes, absolutely. Oftentimes providers, even in the same practice, prefer to have some of their own verbiage, and they can choose to have their own phrases, or a practice might choose to have all of them share a common phrase set. In either way works fine. It's up to the doctors.
All right, perfect. And then I'm just going to do one more questions for the sake of time, make sure everyone has their evening back. And then
Okay.
let me do the last one here. How often do the vitals pull from the monitors, Tami?
That's actually dictated by the office. So there's a setting in DSN where you can control how often that information drops into the note. Most generally, we see offices select a time period of every 5 minutes. In our demo copy here that I was showing, I had it dropping in like every 30 seconds, just so you have a chance to see it come in a couple of times. But you can control how often it drops in.
Got it. Thank you. So those are really great questions, everyone, and thank you for submitting them. We will review any remaining questions after the webinar and follow up directly if there's anything specific to anyone's practice. And of course, again, a big thank you to Tami for walking us through the software today. Just a quick reminder, this session is recorded and we'll be sharing the link with you. It will also be available on dsn.com on demand. It would also be available on DSN's YouTube channel, and we will be sharing on socials as well. Also, like Tami mentioned earlier, if you're attending AMOS this year, we'd love for you to come by our booth if you want to learn more, and we would love for you to join our happy hour event after the Thursday exhibition hours as well. You can register for the happy hour using our QR code on the screen, and it's a great opportunity to connect with Tami directly or any of our other team members in person. It's a really great group to be with. Thank you everyone again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.